From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by National Scouting Report. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 Podcast, powered by our proud partners, NSR, National Scouting Report. You can find them on social media on Twitter X at NSR Now, as well as on Instagram at NSR_now. You can also get more information on what they're about on their website at nsr-inc.com. Again, that is NSR, National Scouting Report, the world's leading authority on all athletic recruiting. You can get their information on their website at nsr-inc.com. My next guests, they are returning champions. Yes, they're here for episode 102. All right, the holiday edition. Coach Shaun Soderling and Coach Nick Rizzo. Gentlemen, how are you?
How's it going? Nick's coming from a baby's appointment. So
I am so happy I made it here before we got going. This is amazing. I was panicking.
Yeah, Shaun and I, we stalled a few minutes. We bought you a little bit of time.
That is perfect. That is perfect. I
get in a few extra throws in the bullpen there. Yeah, so right.
Yeah,
awesome. So thank you for being here, gentlemen. Appreciate you. So Nick, especially you. I mean, you're literally photo finish. You made it just coming in from daddy duty. So really appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And what's kind of become it's starting to become a tradition now, a time-honored tradition, right? Little holiday episode, something that started 3 years ago, and love having you guys here. We just kind of put it together and we talk all things soccer, some things not soccer. So very informal show, but here to talk about some wide-ranging yet at times serious topics. So tell us, before we dive into any of the serious talk, the real talk, Shaun, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, just enjoying the holidays. We were talking a little bit earlier about being on the happiness highway. So right now I'm just enjoying the holidays with the family and getting our show ready for convention. Mentioned a while ago, we've got some pretty big guests that we just got lined up for that. So I always like to surprise Nick on Christmas every year with an announcement of like somebody who's going to be on the show, so that he sends me these text messages that are just like, "What? No! Oh my gosh!" Because kind of our rule is like, I don't tell him anything. I just tell him to show up. So it's going to be cool to see some of the texts I might get on Christmas Day this week.
There you go. Nick, what's up, buddy? What's new? Oh, I think you're muted there. Can you hear us? There you go.
You're still muted, Nick.
I think he's still
I'm going to talk like I'm Nick. So he can just move his mouth.
All right, here we go. Yeah, sometimes when I plug my mic in, it does. I'll try to mess with it in a little bit.
Hey, you brought the energy. I love it. You were just muted, so let's reset.
Yeah. But no, good here. We just came, literally, like they mentioned, for my wife's 36-week appointment. They said the baby is still all snug in there, which is great. We don't need it yet. And so
no, we do not.
And things are good here, and just kind of getting ready for the holidays, and they get to celebrate a little bit more with family. We're driving down to Chicago to see my extended family this weekend.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And congratulations. I actually didn't know until, Shaun joined us last week on our 3-year anniversary show, right, for the podcast. And that's where he met. I didn't know. So big congratulations to you and your wife. Super sub number 2 on the way, right? So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We don't know the gender, so we could have like our toddler's, or who's a little boy, is really crazy right now. He's 19 months, and we're about to, if he gets a little brother and gets to guide him in his dark ways, we could have my poor wife is going to have 3 children that she's got to deal with, including me.
3 Rizzo boys. Oh my gosh.
That would be, no one deserves that. So, but all good things.
Now, what you can share, talk to us behind the the decision to not want to know the gender? Was there anything kind of really behind that, or not really? You guys just decided to, we don't
Yeah,
want to
it
know.
was right before the first one where we were talking to a bunch of people, and they like someone had said something that really stuck with us, that you at a certain point in life you don't get a lot of surprises anymore, like things that you
Yeah.
get to really be surprised about and get to
Right.
look forward to. And so it was really interesting to kind of take that in and be like, yeah, you know what, like what's the point, like we're gonna love it no matter what. And everyone's always said it, like once they're out, they're just your kid. Like you don't think about it, it's like a boy or a girl necessarily, they're just your kid. And so yeah, it was kind of funny where like I called that Will was going to be a boy the whole time. No one believed me. Everyone thought I was getting girls, including all the nurses in the hospital. And so I've been adamant that this one's going to be a girl. So if I am correct, I'll be 2 for 2 in my guesses.
So no theory behind your decision this time. You just decided to go the opposite, or what?
Wife's been a little bit different during pregnancy. Like
Yeah.
she's like carrying it a little bit different. Like she doesn't like things that like
He's
happen
way
last
too
night.
scientific about this.
Yeah. No, I'm getting like it's like I'm like really trying to deep dive into this, but no, like no logic behind it whatsoever. Just like a gut feeling. But I had a real good gut feeling that Will was going to be a boy, just
Yeah.
because like I coach women. Like I have a sister. Like I have so many girls in my life that I was just like I think someone's upstairs trying to even the numbers out for me. So I mean, there could be a scenario where we end up with 3 boys and Kelly, I just have like a household full of little me's, which would be kind of crazy because Will is definitely very much unfortunately a replica of me in terms of his emotions and his energy and stuff like that. It's a lot to take care of.
Now, the only question I have for you there, right, with your son right now is, please tell me you're raising him right, making sure he's wearing red. He's a Liverpool fan. You're keeping him away from blue.
Oh
Keeping
yeah. No, he's not wearing a Chelsea blue.
No Chelsea blue. Good.
No, he's definitely wearing all the red. He's got like a bunch. Everyone gives you like great gifts, so he's like 3 or 4 Liverpool shirts that he can wear. So we dress him up on game day and stuff like that. So yeah, no, he's good. He's a lefty, we think, which is kind of funny. Not handed, like he's totally right-handed, but like when you put a soccer ball in front of him, he still only kicks with his left foot, which could be a huge asset down the road.
Yeah.
So we're really hoping that like just continues to ride out and he ends up becoming a left-footed player.
Awesome. Well, I wasn't going to mention anything, but there's 2 Liverpool fans and 1 Chelsea fan supporter, right, on this podcast today.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we're all wearing red, so I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
It's called branding. It's
Okay.
I knew that I was going to be on with Nick, and if I'm going to be on something with Nick, I have to have a red hoodie on. So
There you go. The red hoodie. I like it. So yeah, speaking of which, you were talking about your son, Nick, and I feel like, is that, or maybe it's just me, but like when we were younger, right? Was it just me, or did it seem like it was less common to see these kind of sort of ambidextrous people that do some stuff with the right, some stuff with the left? I feel like that's like a bigger growing population now. I don't know. Have you guys noticed that at all?
I feel like I'll notice it more once like Will becomes an age where he starts hanging out with other kids. Like I don't know a whole lot of other ones, right? But ironically, my dad is where he's left-handed, but like bats righty, golf's righty. Like so he's got a few weird things like that. He's left-handed, but he kicks with his right foot if he's kicking a soccer ball. So, and ironically shares the name, like my son was named after him. So it's like they have the same name. So it's kind of funny that they have that in common. But yeah, I don't know. I will be very interested to see.
Yeah. What about you, Shaun? Any thoughts on that? I know it's random, but since he brought it up, that's kind of why I mentioned it.
Yeah. I only know of 2 people like in my immediate family who are like that. My uncle is left-handed. He was left-footed as a soccer player, but like he golfs right-handed. I think he also eats right-handed as well. So, and then my sister-in-law is ambidextrous as well. So, it's I know from a parent standpoint. Last year, we were watching some game on TV, and Alex Morgan scored with her left foot. And my wife said something to Quinn about like, look, like you should use both feet. And then Quinn went on like a 5-week tear where just every goal she scored was with her left foot. And so, I think it's as the human body continues to change as time goes on, I think we're going to see more people who are like that.
Yeah. And it's funny because when you brought that up, I feel I've noticed it probably, I would say within the last 5 years, I have more and more of my players, right, different teams, different rosters, obviously, but yet it's a lot of, hey, I do everything with my right, but I'm left foot dominant striking a ball, or vice versa, right? Or it's kind of one of these weird things. If I do everything right hand or right side, except I write with my left, it's just a lot of that weird. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, like I have one right now on her team. She does everything, writes everything right footed, but she's got a killer left foot. So, and when I ask her about it, she has no idea where that came from. So anyway, all right, so moving on. So we talk about, obviously, you guys are just coming off your fall seasons, right? And in Shaun, in your case, it's a little different for you, right? This time you're in transition, right? Having just announced your departure from Brescia. Talk to us a little bit from your perspective, the season that was for you there at Brescia, and then now, particularly, some of the things that led up to your decision in ultimately making your announcement to leave.
As far as season, it's going to look, record-wise, it's not going to look like what we've had recently. But I really want to go for a tougher schedule this year, just to kind of see where we were at. We ended up beating our first nationally ranked team in program history in the non-conference season, and that for me was a point where I looked at us and said, we can literally compete with anybody if we want to. And so, like I said, I thought there was definitely some growth where, the previous 3 years, if we'd have played a nationally ranked team, I think the mentality and I think the result probably would have been a lot different than what it was this year. So it was a testament to our players of looking at that challenge head on. And, honestly, I can tell you, leading into that game, even right beforehand during warmups, I was like, oh man, like why did I agree to this game? And there was just something, like, from the moment we stepped onto the field, that feeling just changed. And I was like, you know what? I think we got a shot at this. And we did. We got to halftime with it being tied 0-0. And I just told our players, it's like, we just got to get one. And if we get one, this thing's over. And we did. And we just, I like to tell people that it was the first ever tactical masterclass I've ever put on in 20 plus years. But I think at the end of the day, for me, it's kind of like what my announcement had on it. I'm a person, I love challenges. And I've always been a coach that goes somewhere that's needs some help, needs some foundation rebuilding, things like that. And then, leave it better for the next person, find the next place that needs, some remodeling. So that's kind of where I got to a point in the season where I just felt like, for me personally, kind of hit a ceiling. Now it's for someone else who can do bigger and better things than what I can do to take that team forward. And, but again, I think that the opportunity for me, there's challenges out there, and there's some unfinished business that I want to take care of before this thing's all said and done.
Mm-hmm. Good. So in terms of your decision, was there a moment where you started to think, hey, this could be a possibility? Or was there a definitive moment where it kind of hit you? How did the lead up to the decision, right, to make the decision, right, before you let anybody know, how did that kind of come to you?
Just trying to figure out where I want to be at and what do I want to do. I say, as coaches, we are known for being some of the most unselfish people because we are constantly putting other people in front of ourselves. And that's something that even before being a coach is something that I've done. And so I wish I could remember exactly who it was. I know I had the same conversation with my wife, but somebody was just point blank there. I go, what do you want to do? And I kind of sat there and was like, well, I'd like to do this, 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 this. And they said, okay, well, you can't do that where you're at right now. And it really made me think of, like, man, I know they're right. And, I when I started kind of thinking about, all right, this is what I really want to do. People are going to laugh at this, but Hector being a wrestling guy, you'll get this. I've really kind of likened what I'm going through, or what I went through, I guess. Oh, I guess still going through, very similar to when Cody Rhodes left the WWE, and he felt like he was a primetime player, future champion, things like that. But the powers that be would never, let him grow up and grab those brass rings. And so ultimately, when they're offering him a really good deal, he bet on himself and wanted to go make a household name out of his name. And he went on to do that so much that, they called him back a few years later, and, now he's the biggest thing they have in the company. And he uses the phrase from undesirable to undeniable. And I feel like a lot of that is what I'm kind of taking on of betting on myself. I kind of lead into the announcements. I made a lot of vague posts that were just like all about betting on yourself. And I decided to do that. I was going to take a chance, take a risk. And, I knew, I will say this, I had some options before I made that post. I had some options before this all kind of went down. But once I made that post, more options have kind of come out of the woodwork. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, like that's going to be the good feeling, is to bet on myself. It's not about, who I know or who I might be connected with. Like it's all about me. I'm the one who's got to make this happen. And that's something that's really motivating me right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's awesome. No, that's great stuff. I like that too. What was that again? Undeniable to unstoppable, or what was that?
Undeniable, or undesirable to undeniable.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess if you're wanting some tea, which it kind of sounded like you were going, don't ever tell a coach to lower their standards. So that's your tea that you were looking for. Your clickbait.
There you go. There you go. I like that. So great stuff. So I'm curious, Nick, from your perspective, right? Shaun puts it out.
It's like, hey, we had a great season. Blah, blah. I'm out on this one.
From your perspective, Nick, right? Shaun puts that out there, and I know at a certain point, obviously, I'm sure you were in the loop or knew it was imminent or something, right?
True story though.
Right.
I don't think I said anything to Nick until like right before I did it.
Like
moments. It was really like the night before, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I kept basically everything to the chest. I think only my wife really knew. Maybe like one or two other people, but it was like,
right.
I got a lot of my really good friends who were like, send me texts. I posted, dude, what's this about? It's like, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't tell you. My fault.
So when you found it, when he drops it on you, Nick, what's the initial thoughts? It
was funny because I mean, we talk a decent amount, and so I can't say it like completely came out of the blue, but it was one of those things where it was obviously surprising because you know that like as coaches that we're all not necessarily always going to stay at the same place for forever, but I think like just with like where his wife works and things like that, even though it was a longer commute, it made sense and things like that. So I think that's where it came to be a little bit of a surprise. But the funniest part was literally the next day. We were driving to Kelly's family, which is like only like 3 hours away. And I bet we got in the car and Kelly was like, oh, I didn't know Shaun was leaving. I was like, oh yeah, he kind of mentioned it last night. And following that, I think it was like in the next hour, I got like 10 text messages like, hey, what's Soderling doing? What's Soderling? It was like, and it's like, I was like, Kelly, just take my phone away from me. I was like, I like, there was people that I didn't get back to like till like 3 days later. Cause it was just like, there were so many people that were so curious about what he was doing. And so it was just pretty funny. Cause I just handed her my phone. I was like, just take this for a little bit. I was like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah. So yeah, I know when I saw it, right. I saw the tweet, I saw the post, and I was like, I immediately just sent him a message just like, hey, I was like, this is interesting. I said, but right away, Shaun, what did I say? I think it was something about, I know you're going to be ready excited to see what you do next, or something along those lines. I forget what it was, but
I can actually pull it up for you verbatim if you want.
Oh no. We might have to, do I need to have the dump button? Was there, you got to
No. I think it was just I think it was just that, you just said, bruh, what's the word I just saw? So, just that was the thing. I was just why 48,000 people have looked at that post is beyond my I can't even fathom that. Like why? But
I think it still gets people's attention when they see that a coach is in transition, right? Whether they're leaving a place or they're arriving at a new place, right? Just the certain buzz that's, I guess, maybe generated from that. But Nick hit on something, right? And to your point, Shaun, I think that where I can really like relate is that having been having been in the military, right, retired military, one of the things as an operator, as a special operator, what I loved to do, what I picked up on was your job. What I got used to was you go somewhere and your job is to fix it or inevitably make it better and leave it better than you found it, right? And then you master something or to the best of your ability in that time with what you have, with the resources you have, and then you're maybe on to the next challenge, right? That's how you keep developing. And I think sometimes as coaches, I think that kind of gets lost within the, whether it's the player or the parent population, right? That we're always still developing as well. And if we stop developing, if we stop learning, that's when it's time to hang them up, right? That's when it's time to retire.
I think it's the competitive nature in what we do.
Mhm.
I mean, this is no knock at people who stay at the same place
No,
for
no,
5, 10, 15, 20 years. But at the end of the day, we're competitors, and you can get to a point at some point where you can say, okay, like I need something new, or I need some fresh competition. And I feel like at the end of the day, that was kind of my thing. And again, too, like, I've publicly kind of said, like, I don't know. I, I would like to be doing something to where when my kids get to high school, I can really focus on them when
mhm,
it comes to that point. Like, I want to give these next, these next years, whatever I got. And it's all about trying to finish the story my way. And, to be able to, I've said, Nick and I have had this conversation where I said, if I did this, and then somebody came along and said, all right, you're not doing this anymore, I'd be okay with that. So like, I did everything I wanted to do. And I think it's crazy that kids can have dreams. This may get me in trouble. Kids can have dreams of what they want to do, where they want to go to. And as humans, we support them in those dreams, and we say, hey, yeah, you want to play in the pros, or you want to go to this school, or you want to do that, you want to do this. Yeah, like, okay, let's get you there. Let's get you there. But I think as adults, we have to have those dreams too. We have to have those
no
dreams
doubt.
of where we want to go to, what we want to do. And my situation is no different than a kid who's trying to go achieve their dreams. When I left high school coaching to go coach in college, I told our players straight up, I've told every one of you to follow your dreams, go chase your dreams. This is the best ride you'll go on. And if I didn't do that myself, I'd be doing a disservice to you. And so I just look at it as, um, we're all dreamers, so why not go after it?
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And I think what gets lost on that too, because we're all fathers here. And I think secondary, like once you become a father, obviously, I think you all can attest to this, right? Things like overnight they change, right? They change
Yeah.
the priorities, the and to provide, obviously. But I think along the way, and the sacrifices, it goes without saying, right? Sacrifices and commitment. But I think along the way, some of that stuff that you're speaking to there, Shaun, is that we forget sometimes as the parents, as the fathers, as the adults, right? One of the things that we have to continue to model for our own children is that pursuit of still going after, as you said, right, goals and dreams and whatever, right? So, because I think that's it sets a great example for our children as well. So, thoughts on that, Nick?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it completely changes your perspective on everything, which is such a cool thing to like. I don't know. I was always jealous of Shaun at the time when we started this podcast because he had kids and I didn't, and I like he would have all these long conversations about with the people on the show about like being a father and being parents and stuff like that, and I was always just a little bit jealous of it, to be honest, because I couldn't relate. And so it definitely is a cool thing. And I was told people like not this past season, but the year before when Will was really young, we kind of had a weird year where like it started off not very good and had a ton of ACL tears and stuff like that. And I remember like being old me would have been super stressed and like done like kind of like falling off a deep end, but like new me was like coming home and putting my 4-month-old kid on my chest and falling asleep. And it's like, it just changed. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, it just had a way of like keeping me calmer and more like really like steady. And
Yeah.
I think that like when we turned our season around, I attribute a big part of that because like, yeah, I think last year we started off like 2-6 or sorry, 2-4, and then ended up 11-5-2. And so like we went like 10-1-1 to end the season or whatever it was, or 9-1-1 to end the season. And I don't know if we would have done that if I wasn't dad, because like single fatherless Nick would have been like freaking out and like yelling and stuff like that. And new dad Nick was a little bit calmer and able to just relax a little bit more. Not that I'm so super relaxed all the time anyway. I still stress, but
the perspective, I guess. Yeah, no, I still joke about that. One last father story here. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you guys, but I tell the story pretty regularly how I remember when my wife was pregnant with our first one, right? I was just so worried about her being healthy, baby arriving, baby being healthy. I had never thought about anything. I had not thought about 1 second beyond after the baby was here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so we're leaving the hospital. We get home, car seat, everything. Put my daughter down for the first time in the living room. We walk into the house, first time with her. And then it dawns on me. I was like, oh my God, I'm responsible for this for like the next 18 years at least, right? Like it was not just a 9-month period leading up to it. It's like now the real fun begins, right? So I still tell that story to this day. It's pretty, I don't know. It just sounds so obvious. So, but yet, I don't know. Somehow it just never connected with me until brought our baby home for the first time.
And I think you kind of hit it too, as I was letting the dogs out. When you have those kids, you have your own children, and you want them, when they can remember things, you want to see you pursue things. So that way, one day they're pursuing things. I got 2 kids of my own that are massive dreamers, and I want them to go after those dreams. So if they can see me doing it as an example, and if I can make that dream happen for myself, it tells them that they can do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now we transition here. Nick, from your perspective, right? You alluded to it a little bit, right? In terms of your start, tell us a little bit. We look at your season, right? The season that was slow start, combat some injuries. Tell us how that how it unfolded. Obviously the start, you weren't prepared for the injuries. No one really prepares for those, but did it get off to an even rockier start than you even imagined? Was it maybe the rockiest start you've had? And then how did you feel like you kind of corrected the course there?
Yeah.
Can I throw in my favorite text that Nick sent? I think he sent to me or sent to our group about this year. I don't know if it was some super early on. I don't know if they had played a game yet. And Nick just sends the text that was just like, I don't think we've scored a goal in a week. And this is including practice. And I can remember sitting there I can respond, and I was like, "Are you for real?" And he was like, "Yeah, I don't think that we have." So that's how it started.
Wow.
And
you're talking about including practice?
It was like one of those things. It was a weird year. Wow. Yeah. And so the season I was talking about in that story was actually 2 seasons in 2022. That one where we started off 4, and then this year was like we ended up right at 500. It just felt like a year we never could get. Like you take a step forward, and then you take a step back, and then take a step forward and take a step back. And honestly, it was like kind of Shaun mentioned, we were super stout defensively. We obviously in college soccer, you play 18 games. We had 10 shutouts in 18 games, only gave up 12 goals all season, but only scored 16. And so we ended up at 500 just because we really couldn't put the ball away. And yeah, it was just kind of a weird year where like every team has different journeys that they go on. And I think our journey this year was just that we were insanely young. So we kind of hit a weird time period where I took over. So this is my 3rd season. And the year before I got there, they had a double coach turnover in 6 months. So they had a coach, let him go for lack of success, and then hired a new coach who came in for 6 months, didn't recruit anyone, and then he left. And so we have a senior class that had 0 people in it. So it's just kind of bizarre. So the big joke on our team is we didn't have a legal drinker on our team for the whole season. And so I think like that, it's always been kind of funny to look at, especially in the age of 5th years and COVID years, where I would say most teams tend to have an average age, probably even closer to 22, at the very least, probably 21. And we had an average age probably closer to 19. And so it was just, we'd be up in games. Like there was a game we were up 1-0 with 12 minutes to go and somehow lose like 2-1 in the last 12 minutes. And so it was just a lot of growing pains. But I think again, when you play, like our starting lineup consisted of, I think it was like 4 freshmen, 4 sophomores, and 3 juniors or something like that. It was like kind of exciting because even all the subs are freshmen and sophomores. We only had 3 juniors on the team.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun because you're like, okay, like we had a lot of growing pains, but we had a lot of growing pains together, and everyone's coming, as of right now, everyone's coming back. And so it's kind of fun to think about, like, okay, like if we learn from some of these difficult moments that we had this year, and obviously we didn't have the worst record ever, but it's not a record that I think we want to have going into next year and going forward. So hopefully we can learn from those things and change it going into next year.
Now, you clearly had to have had the youngest squad in the entire conference, I imagine, right? With
yeah, by far. Like 29 of our 34 players were freshmen and sophomores. So it was very, very young. And everyone has their things, right? Like some teams are young, some teams are injured. You know, like I don't want to make excuses for the year we had. We definitely should have done better than we did, but I think I think in a lot of ways it's exciting going into next year because, again, like, yeah, we did have a lot of growing pains together that hopefully we can like learn from going into next year.
Yeah. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Nick on the show, he is Coach Rizzo, Nick Rizzo. He is the head women's soccer coach at St. Mary's University in Minnesota, right? Since I know there's multiple.
Yes.
And St. Mary's University, Minnesota. So curious from your perspective, Nick, you were there before as an assistant.
Yep.
All right. You go off to Monmouth and then you come back, right?
Yep.
So now you've been there for a few years. You've kind of settled in again. What's different now, specifically to St. Mary's? What's different now compared to when you were there before?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's funny. It's like we've all had that experience where you leave a place and you never know if you're going to go back. And so, like, the last time you walk out of the office or last time you drive out of campus or drive down a certain road, you're like, oh man, it's weird. I'm never going to be back here again. And then you get the opportunity to go back there, and it's like weird because then it's almost, it feels like you came back, like you had a dream about it and then you came back to it. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say a whole lot is that different, which was a huge advantage because then it was a lot easier to just go back to selling the school in the way that I sold the school as an assistant a couple of years before this. And yeah, I mean, no, a lot of things are really similar. A lot of, like, even back when I was there the first time, we recruited a ton of the West Coast. We still do that a lot. And like where, like, our fields in the same location, the offices, like I just got promoted to the head coach's office, you know, like there's the assistant coach's office and then there's the head coach's office, which is a little nicer and a little bigger. And so I got to go into the head coach's office now, which was pretty cool. Cause I don't know if I ever thought I would have been able to have that opportunity. And so, yeah, all really good things.
Awesome. Good deal. So, convention, guys, we know that's coming up, right? United Soccer Coaches Convention. And you all are a staple, right? In what used to be Podcast Row, now Media Row. Talk to us a little bit. I think last year was the first year they redubbed it as Media Row, wasn't it? Was it last year? I think.
I feel like it's still Podcast Row last year. I feel like Media Row's this year.
Is it this the first time? Is it this year?
I don't know.
Okay. So, all right. So Media Row, Podcast Row. I guess we'll go Media Row now, right? Talk to us about just give for our listeners, right? Maybe haven't had a chance to attend United Soccer Coaches Convention. They hear about it. Give us a visual of what it kind of looks like, what it sounds like, just the buzz, the environment. What is that like?
You want to go or you want me to go?
I got a dog that's being loud over here.
So okay. It'll be obviously a little bit different this year because of where it's set up. It's set up in the exhibit hall, which is going to make it so loud. Especially not throughout the day. Like, obviously, like the exhibit hall, for anyone that's been there before, like night one is absolutely nuts. It's a line, they rush in, there's all these giveaways and stuff. So people are like literally sprinting through exhibit hall to get free stuff, especially for Duke Tig, holler the sponsors. There
you go.
Our friends, Adelaide and Tiff. But yeah, so I think it'll be a very different dynamic this year just because we'll be in there, which could also be really cool because in years past, like there's been some years where we've been, like last year was awesome because we were in an area that you pretty much had to walk past all the time to get to and from places. So we got to see and interact and be around a lot of people. I'm trying to remember was it Baltimore that we were kind of in a little like side area, Shaun, that like made it like where like, so we didn't see as many people.
Yeah, we were on the far end in Baltimore. Chicago, we were like right outside the doors for the exhibit hall, which was awesome. Mm-hmm. And then Baltimore, we were kind of like on a different down end. Kansas City, we were in a place where like you would walk through if you want to go to the exhibit hall a specific way. But I think this year's setup is going to be something pretty cool. Just kind of be there in the middle of it all.
So what would you guys, what do you all feel from the podcast perspective on site there live? What is kind of the sweet spot between not too far and not too close? Or, you know, because I could only imagine exhibit hall, it's going to be a little bit louder, right? So where does that lie?
I personally, I still think the very first one they did, where we were right outside the exhibit hall, in an area that like, and I think it depends on the setup of the convention center, because every convention center is different too. So I felt like Chicago, we were in like a really good area where there was heavy traffic, but it wasn't like crazy loud. And then you know, obviously as it continues to grow, you know, they keep adding more and more shows to the podcast row, media row, where now so you're getting kind of stuff from all around. So I think that you know, this year is going to be kind of cool to see what it's like. And there are a lot of us who are doing producing and whatnot, having to use the background noise erasers and whatnot in the post edit and everything. So, but you know, maybe it's just also another chance to get more eyes on what we're doing.
Thoughts on that, Nick? Anything else?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's 100% right. So I don't know, it's kind of cool. And I'm sure this is just the experience. Like convention is similar in so many ways each year, but very different in so many ways each year. So it's it'll offer a new dynamic that way. Again, I don't think there's ever been a convention that's been exactly the same, but all of them seem to have the same message at the end. With man, this was a blast.
Right. So guests, talk to us. What do you guys have lined up? What have you all already announced? And what's the total plan in terms of the layout? Is it a formula there? 2 a day, 3 a day? What are you all shooting for?
I say the same thing every year, that we're not going to do as many shows as we do the year before.
Of course.
Because I just like completely schedule the crap out of us. But as of now, it looks like it's going to be the same thing as we do every year. We've already announced Randy Waldrum. We always do that. I know he's a good friend of your guys' show. Randy's always he's always like our opener. Like we know we're going to get a good show out of him. And so I think it's always like, and it's an easy chat too. So I think it's always good to get things kicked off with him. So we've told him that as long as they'll do it, he will always kind of kick things off with us. We've got, you know, just for like our ones we've announced already, Randy, Marguerite as well. And then this afternoon, I guess it is afternoon now, this evening we'll be announcing Andrew Richardson, who's the chairman for the Black Soccer Coaches Association group. Andrew's going to be coming out and talking to us on that Friday. And then I got some emails back from a couple of heavy hitters today that you know, one we'll put out on Christmas, but then, you know, as time goes on, we'll announce the rest of them.
So ideally, what are you trying to target? Maybe 10 guests? Is there a magic number there? What is it?
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 10 to 12, yeah. Because I mean, like our show's a little bit different than others. They're maybe unlike some like the Sirius XM or the Fox Sports people, but you know, we are also involved in stuff other than soccer chat at the convention.
Correct.
So, you know, we've got to kind of map out sometimes. Now we do every year map out from 12 to 1 because we got to eat. Like we are fat guys that we have to get that intake in. Philadelphia was like the best place because we could just walk across the street to the market.
That was really good. I forgot all about
that one. Yeah. I think that's the one you were talking about where it was like really good traffic kind of flow.
Yes.
Where everybody was having to walk to. But for whatever reason, I always forget Philadelphia, but I know that was one. But, you know, I think, and right now we've got some openings we typically do a show. What's going to be kind of weird is we typically do a show on Saturday mornings in the exhibit hall, but now it's like, we're going to be there already. So, you know, try to get something linked up for that. But at the same time, you know, I got asked the other day to, I think it's called, it's basically moderating a pretty cool panel that I'm excited about them putting out. So I don't know the time of it yet. So I'm scared that like we've scheduled a show that's during the same time. But maybe I can try to be 2 places at once. I don't know.
Right. Awesome. Well, hey, unless you drag that guest as part of the panel, right? Drag them over there with you, right?
You know
Maybe.
what? That's very possible.
Maybe. So tell us, so Nick, your perspective, Shaun. So take us through the logistics, right? How are you guys tackling this? Because now it's on the West Coast this year, right? Out in Anaheim. So what will that morning of look like? You know, as far as you're leaving your respective locations, how do you guys link up? How do you handle that? What do you take with you equipment wise? How do you guys plan this out logistically? What goes into it?
Yeah.
Nick, what I always tell you for the stuff.
I don't even remember what you tell me, but it's always
Nick, just be there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He, like, I was gonna say, like, show up, just make sure, like, yeah, it's funny. I like literally like I don't like it's just so funny because I don't do anything. Shaun figures all of this out. And so it's always kind of funny with that because I literally I don't do anything. So Shaun, why don't you take this answer?
I put that on a business card. I love that. Right?
Yeah. No, it's that's kind of like my big joke is I always tell people, like I just tell Nick when to be and where to be at. And he's always said, in his life, all of his assistants and his wife, like, just tell him where to be at and he'll be there. No more details, just what time, where, and he's there. So that's kind of what we do here as well. But logistically, I think right now it's I will actually be getting in. This has actually kind of changed in the last week or so. So I'm going to do the coaches credentialing class that's going on there. So originally I was going to get in on Wednesday from ECNL down in Tampa, and now I'm going to be getting in on Monday to get ready for that class. It's on Tuesday, or I'm sorry, I think I get on Sunday to get ready for the class. It's on Monday, Tuesday. No. Tuesday and Wednesday's a class. Sorry. So I'll get in a couple days earlier for that to get my first 2 classes done with that. And then just kind of using Wednesday to kind of set up a little bit. I know we can get in. I believe we can actually get in to like set things up on Thursday morning. But I will use my Nick Rizzo card to try to get in a little bit earlier to see, kind of the setup and whatnot. And then we always, I know it's always funny, like between Nick, myself, and other friends of ours is like that day of travel, we're always like texting, okay, where are you at now? Okay, where's your layover? How long are you there for?
That is
how much longer till you get in? And what's crazy is like last year, a lot of coaches, specifically on the college side, a lot of coaches were down in Florida for the ECNL.
Mm-hmm.
And that day that most of us were all flying out to go to Philly was the day that the FAA either got hacked or their server went down and whatnot.
Oh.
And so like I got stuck in Atlanta. I actually was like, from what I was told, was like I was on one of the few flights that actually got off in the morning time. I had a layover in Atlanta, and there were so many coaches who were in the Atlanta airport, and we all were like, okay, like, what time do you think you're going to get there? What time do you think you're going to get there? And having people call me saying like, hey, we're ditching the Atlanta airport. We're getting a rental car. Like, just ride with us to Philly. So, that was a fun year to kind of figure out what time everybody's going to get there. Cause I think our friend Ian Wilson got there a little bit before I did. And then I got there, and I think Nick got there a couple hours after I did. So I went and got like our hotel and everything ready, and got Nick his card once he arrived and whatnot. But this year, I'm kind of sad that I won't be able to leave with a lot of people from Florida to head to it. But as far as like stuff that we take, that really depends on the distance that we've got to go. I know like people see our setup that we had in Kansas City, which was my favorite setup, like because it was driving distance. Like I took a small TV to like put our graphic on and whatnot. I really enjoyed the way that looked. But when it's a little bit farther away, all you guys get is we bring a microphone, a laptop, and typically something that kind of a sign that shows who we are. And we always have goodies from Exact Sports. They always help us out, giving us some gimmicks that we can give away. It's always koozies every year. Everybody loves the koozies. Yeah. We get all that stuff there, and then we let it happen. I mean, so many times we've done a show where somebody who we didn't think who was there, like we just run into them. Okay, like you want to be on the show? Yeah, all right. Hey, come during this time. We got some time that we can block out. So I think there's also that element of surprise. So I try not to get too logistical, even though I'm a logistical person. Mm-hmm. I try not to get too much because I know that we've got to have that flexibility to be able to pivot when we need to. And at the same time, and we've had people that we had scheduled for a show and their lecture or their field session time got changed. Right. So we've had to, kind of move things around. So as far as travel goes, I mean, I right now I don't know if I'm going to be leaving from Florida, if I'm going to be leaving from home to get there. But I'm sure I will continue to text people, seeing where they're flying from and what time they're getting in.
Wow, that's great. So that was when that happened last year, huh? The whole FAA
Yeah.
hack thing. That was wow. I remember. Yeah, I just didn't realize it was that particular week, that weekend. Crazy stuff.
That
So
was such a weird day because, like I said, like I said, just in my like concourse alone in
mhm.
Atlanta, there were hundreds of coaches who were all going, and like we had a coach that was like sitting like all of us who were in Atlanta. Hey, my plane's on the runway. We're getting ready to take off, and the next thing we know, he sent us a text like they just turned us around, and we were like, oh, whatever. But yeah, it's crazy to think that that was a year ago.
Wow. Yeah. So from the key events, maybe certain clinicians, speakers, what has you maybe what's one thing you're really excited about this particular year, Nick? What's is there something in particular you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, we talked with Jeff last week or 2 weeks ago, Shaun,
Yeah.
and just talked about like all the different people that are going to be there, and I think that's a cool thing because, like Shaun mentioned, we do obviously like have live interviews, but there's ways that you can get out and see different people, and so there's so many good speakers this year, and again they have it virtually for people who can't make it out to Anaheim and stuff like that as well, and so I think it'll be very cool to just have like the experience with all those different people because yeah, they're really like there's so many good presenters and things like that, and just being able to again just learn so much about the game and it's always been cool because you can carve out the experience you want because what you need one year or what you need maybe as a new coach isn't the same things that you need a few years down the road, or maybe you dealt with this past season, like you dealt with a lot of mental health issues within your team. And that's something that you really need this year. Not that it's not always important, but maybe in a year it might be have a little bit more importance to you and your team in particular. I think it's kind of cool because you can kind of like carve and scope your own experience in the way that works best for you and what you're going through as a coach, which is, and again, it's the biggest gathering of coaching is in the world for soccer. And so it's just really cool from all different countries, all different walks of life. And I don't know, I think that's some of the best parts.
How about you, Shaun? What's got you maybe most excited this year? Any one particular thing?
Again, like Nick said, and we actually just got done recording with David Simeon a while ago, and I think it's this year. I know that there is a larger amount of like certificates and diplomas that you can get at convention as compared to years past. I think there's like 2 or 3 you can normally get, and this year there's a lot more. One of the things I'm really interested in is some of their paths that they have. Of series of lectures that all kind of coincide with each other. And there's like a men's college soccer path. There's a women's college soccer path. There's a professional path. There's an NWSL path. And so to me, based off of things I'm truly interested in, I am for whatever reason I'm way more into like the front office side of things, the pro game now, than I've ever been before. And so, being able to go and they've got the, Haley Carter, who's a good friend of ours, GM for the Orlando Pride. I believe the Angel City FC GM. There's like one panel that's just nothing but GMs and front office people. And like, that's something that I want to go watch and listen and learn as well, because that is something that intrigues me about that level now. So that's something I'm looking forward to, trying to get in the minds of those front office people and why they make the decisions that they make. The talent scouting side of things, that's a diploma they're going to have this year, is a talent ID diploma that someone can get. So, obviously there's the heavy hitters that do a great job every year. Excuse me. I know I'd be remiss if I didn't say Kai Edwards, just because Kai always acts like nobody will go to his sessions, but people go to them. So, especially if you bring the Hen Rock, he will especially love that. But, for me, like I said, I think it's more on the professional side of things, of what the ones that I'm going, okay, like I have to go to this. And obviously Laura Harvey's, I think she's a fantastic coach. I think she's one of the top 5 coaches in the world, dead or alive. Like, don't try to debate me on it. Like, it's not worth it, because I'm not going to fall. Like, always intrigued to hear what she has to say, especially now with, the news of what she might be doing over the
Right.
next year.
Right.
So it'll kind of be a good, and Dave said on our podcast, like, the chance to go listen to people who you see on TV, or you've heard of them from someone else, and that at the end of the day, like, that's the thing I enjoy. I always enjoy going to see new people that I've never heard speak before, but there's obviously some topics of people that I've listened to before that I want to go check out, just because I know they're going to do a good job with it.
Yeah. Yeah. A buddy of mine told me he's a college coach down in the Valley here in Texas. He mentioned something to me. I forgot what he said, but I think something about, I believe he said it was that they're going to be offering, I think, certain credential course or diploma course in Spanish, I think.
Yeah. David was just telling us about that. So
Okay.
it is the first one they've done, and I don't remember what the diploma is, but the entire course, the lectures and the field session, the entire thing is going to be in
finish,
Spanish.
right? Everything. Yeah.
From the beginning to the very end is nothing but Spanish. And I'm so intrigued by how many people, let's say non-Hispanic, who are fluent in it and understand it, how many will attend that? Because I think it would be a good amount of people who might be interested in that. So that's going to be something I think is going to be really cool to see this year. And I think something that, I think you're going to see more of that going forward. I think you'll probably see maybe next year a couple more Hispanic courses. Maybe there's whatever language you want to throw out there. But I think that's a start of something pretty cool that hopefully continues to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Glad to hear. So we pivot here, coaches. So next question I got for you, kind of a easy softball kind of layup question here for you. Your thoughts on the state of the college game?
Oof.
Right. Layup, easy one. That's an easy one, right? Easy one. So
yeah, it's interesting. I think you could tackle it in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
I think
so. Nick, I got preferences for you. So we had somebody that submitted that question to Hector, and they started it off with, I want to see Nick's face when you read this question to him.
Okay.
Because I was floored.
Clearly, I thought this was to the wrong podcast, right? But no, it wasn't. So now from Lethal Soccer, Lethal Enforcer, Texas High School Soccer. These being you two, these seem like two smart dudes. What's their outlook, predictions, and concerns of how college soccer will look by the end of the decade between realignment, new NCAA legislations, and year-round club, which is common in all sports? Where are we headed?
I told Hector, and I tweeted to Lethal Enforcer Soccer. I don't know how much we have to pay them for saying that we.
Oh, did you tweet?
Yeah. I said, how much do we owe you for calling us smart? Because we greatly appreciate that. So Nick, now when you answer that, you have to keep that in mind that people think that we're smart.
Yeah, I mean, now it's a lot of pressure to not
Pressure's on you.
I'll tackle it this way first. I think that with the way NILs are going, and they haven't affected soccer as much as they've affected other sports, with the influx of internationals, especially older internationals, and I think a year-round model, if it ends up going through, it's seeming more that the men's college and women's college soccer games, I would lean a little bit more towards the men's side, is going to start actually looking more in alignment with professional soccer around the world. Because you're going to have opportunities for people maybe to make money off of their name and brand recognition. You're going to have, if you look at, it was crazy. Someone tweeted out, the Division II national champs this year had an insane amount of internationals, I think it was like 80% internationals. And they had a multitude of players that were over 25 years old. Because they were coming in for finishing degrees and things like that, or even starting degrees and stuff. And so it's that doesn't look like what college. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I know there's defenders or proponents on both sides. I was a player who played against a 27-year-old when I think it was 19. He was a freshman 27-year-old when I was in college. He was the best player I ever played against. He was ridiculous.
27-year-old freshman? Did you just say 27?
His name's Marco Kirsch. He went to North Carolina Wesleyan for 1 year. Played there, then went back to Germany and played in the Bundesliga too for a while. But crazy. He was 27 years old. He was born in 1980 and I was 87. So it was very easy to figure out how far we are apart. But to go back to it, it's interesting because it does seem more and more like the game, especially on the men's side, is going to start to like really mirror what a professional calendar might look like. And again, it's not going to be the quality, but you look at the players there's a lot of men's players still like in not only the US, but other ones that still have like some semblance of college soccer experience. And it might not be the best path for like the elite, but
Right.
there's still players that are going on and having good professional careers, not only in the US, but in Europe that played college soccer. And I think I don't know, it's with the legislation and stuff, I think it's going to continue to encourage those types of things to happen.
Yeah, I think it was, what was it? Was it 2 years ago now? Maybe a year and a half ago. So I know Sasho Sarovsky, right, from Maryland was really pushing that 21st century model, particularly for D1. It gets shot down. All right. Legislation.
That was 2020.
It was 20.
So it was, I think it was, he originally, so I was at the convention where he presented it for the very first time. And I want to say that was 2000, maybe 2012, maybe 2013, because it was my first year coaching college. And I happened to be in the D1 meeting where he presented it. Because I remember, because it was when I took the job at Brescia, I had brought it up because at the time we found out we were probably going to have to do a split schedule for the COVID year. And everybody laughed at it, said no. And then after our seasons got over with, everybody was like, hey, that's actually not that bad of an idea. So yeah, I think it was officially like brought to attention in 2020.
Well, yeah, I thought it was 2021 that they voted on it, that they shot it down.
Yeah.
But I guess the question, but particularly, I know it was interesting because the D1 men's side of the house was kind of for it and pushing for it, but not the women's side, right? So I'm just kind of curious, falling in line with what Nick was just talking about. Now, again, I get it, D1, different boat, but still at the same time, I'm kind of curious if they will start to come back to that, particularly on the men's side.
This is where it's kind of, I'm cool that I'm like in the middle here of where I'm at and whatnot, but I understand both sides of the argument. I understand from the school's point of the money, the travel, and things like that, the accommodations and whatnot. I totally understand that point. But what I really understand the most is kids playing once a week, longer recovery time. They're not going to be out of the classroom. I think about it from a football perspective. A lot of times we kind of joke about, oh, there's no way those football GPAs are as high as they are. Well, if they're in class Monday through Friday, and fly out maybe Friday afternoon to where they got to play the next day, like I could totally understand that. I'm for it. I've been very vocal that I'm for it. I know on the NAIA side, there is a vote that's going to be going down because it has been suggested on the men's side there as well to try to move forward with it. And the thing I learned about the NAIA is that they try to do things before the NCAA, if possible. They did the NIL before NCAA, and I know that this is something too that they're
actively pursuing that 21st century game model right now to vote on.
Yeah. Okay. And I know administratively a lot of schools were not for it, but I think the coaches, with the resources and the data that they've gotten to show, I think it'll be interesting to see, because we had a question during I was the national rater this year, and it got brought up at some point, and I know somebody said, well, why is that not being brought for discussion on the women's side? And it was kind of the same thing of, well, the women's side doesn't seem like they really are for it. So that's something that's kind of intriguing to me.
Correct.
That why is it okay for one side but for not the other? And I hear the things of it's the social aspect and the burnout and stuff like that.
The only two I ever consistently heard were the social, as you mentioned, and then the academic piece, right? The ability to focus more on academics, particularly, and balance them more in the spring. I think that those were the only two I consistently heard on the women's side. So
I just wonder that when you're not missing class time for the most part,
right?
I like our school, all classes on Friday are done at noon. And not every school's like that. I totally understand that. But if you are in class from Monday to Friday without missing, I don't know how that truly hurts. Like, yeah, you're studying on the road, but you're going to do that anyway as on a Wednesday night, traveling for your Thursday night game. Or, if you have a Friday, Saturday schedule, like one of the schools I was at before, we had a Thursday or a Friday, Sunday schedule. Like, you're still going to be making that time to study. So I think it's a time management course, I guess, for our kids.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because it's kind of related, but not really. So, we talked about convention, and then we're talking about the state of the game right now. And so I had this conversation with in our last episode 101 with Jake Plant from UIW, right? The women's soccer coach there at Incarnate Word. I mentioned to him, so I'll mention it to you all too, is that, so I'm sitting there, was it Sunday, right? Sunday. So full disclosure, I'm actually at an NBA game. I'm watching the Spurs versus the Pelicans. So I'm at an NBA game, and I'm watching on my phone. I'm watching the NCAA women's volleyball national championship, right, between Texas.
Like, dude, Texas just rolled. Holy cow!
Yeah, I know. Yeah, between Texas and Nebraska, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching the environment, right? I'm watching the setting. Here we are a week before Christmas, and I'm thinking to myself, we just got done with our men's and women's college cups, D1 college cups, the women's being in Cary, North Carolina, and why can't that environment, a similar environment? I get it, outdoors, but why can't we have a similar environment to that in the women's soccer game? So for example, right, we talk about just TV, right? It's primetime, ABC, afternoon, Sunday, great spot, right? Great spot. It's not buried on ESPNU. It's not sometimes lost in ESPN Plus or limited access, or it's a questionable broadcast. And then the other piece too is I think I got the acronym right, the AVCA, right? So what they do, the American Volleyball Coaches Association, they center their convention around the Final Four, right? So this is something to think about, right? I don't know if United Soccer Coaches could ever pull that off, right? So
I thought they used to do that with the men's side.
I thought there was something. I don't know. I thought there was something there, but I don't. Especially since they're a week apart, right? I didn't know how that worked, but I'm looking at all of that, and then I'm just thinking to myself, what compounds all of that is that simultaneously, for example, the women's D1 College Cup is happening in North Carolina, and you have the ECNL and the GA having showcases on opposite ends of the country simultaneously, right? So none of that helps, right? None of that helps showcase.
Well, adding into that, as somebody who's been down there for that, so the Visit Raleigh showcase is always at the same time, and it's basically there. So the games there get done at 3:00 so that everyone can go to that first game on Friday night. And this year, somebody was kind of talking about, because the GA did an event in California at the same time, and ECNL was in Tennessee at the same time, like how much them going off and doing their own thing was going to hurt the College Cup, because before you had ECNL and GA games at the Visit Raleigh showcase. Right. And how much effect that had. I also wonder too. So I didn't go this year to the College Cup, but I did go last year. And the first game was North Carolina and Florida State. And I think that's right. Was it North Carolina and Florida State was the first game last year? Because then it was UCLA. No, yeah, because there was UCLA and Alabama.
Lost to UCLA. Oh no, that was in the no shoot. That was
the semifinal. He's talking about the first. Yeah, I think it was the first semi. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first semi was Carolina and Florida State. I remember because I saw Red Lightning on the sidelines, and any college football people, who Red Lightning is. He's now the manager for the women's soccer team. But I remember that game being completely packed. It was the first game. Standing room almost throughout the whole place. And then right in the middle of the first half of that UCLA Alabama game that was second, all those kids had 8:00 games the next morning. And the showcase was probably 25, 30 minutes away. And who knows where all they were staying at.
Right.
But so I'm assuming that, that has a thing to do with that that type of attendance stuff. But I look at the like on the men's side for Division One, they were in a fantastic stadium down at Louisville,
Yeah. And it was empty.
Family Stadium,
And it was
and it was empty.
Yeah.
And I had so many people that reached out to me and was like, "Hey, like, do they have any like special like events or like little like like kids area, whatever that you can go to?" Because you see that for football, basketball, and baseball, they have like the little like inflatables and
Right.
activities that you can go to. And I'm like,
Right.
I don't think that they do have that. But I can also tell you, like, the promotion wise of it, like I saw more from the Lou City Academy about the men's Final Four being in Louisville than I saw anywhere else.
Yeah.
The
marketing of it.
Yeah. And so, I wonder how much, obviously volleyball has been on a huge up in the last year or so. Obviously like with Nebraska and some of these other teams and whatnot. And so I wonder, how much of it is they're saying, hey, this is a group that's on a rise. Let's pump more into the marketing side for this. Because I'm sure soccer was that not too long ago, where soccer was the collegiate sport on the rise, and they put the money in it. But no, I think it's a thing where volleyball has it right. Doing it around their coaches convention. I think if if I was the people at North Carolina FC, my thing would be, hey, GA, ECNL,
right,
DPL, ATL, whatever other acronyms hip hop wise I can think of to throw out there. Like, hey, like save that weekend for us, because next year both the men's and the women's college cup are in Cary, North Carolina. So if I'm that area, I'm like, hey, like y'all don't pick anything for this weekend. Let us do this. Let's do soccer right by America. Let's do it right for these college kids, and put all of our resources into it.
Yeah. It's just not smart. It's just not smart business, I guess. Now, is there any, and I mentioned this too, is there anything that says that the GA, ECNL, right, have to fall in line with that? No. But is it a good look though? Is it is it smart? Is it good business? Is it smart? No, it's also not. So tough one. So, so curious. So Nick, from your perspective, right, help us understand particularly from the D3 angle, the transfer portal. We've been hearing so many stories, and they're overwhelmingly D1 driven, just the stories, the different things, the numbers, what you're hearing. How do they look from the perspective of I guess D3, if you will, and just the things that you, I guess, hear in that world?
Yeah, it's interesting. I probably my interesting perspective is obviously D3 doesn't have nearly as many in the transfer portal. Like it's a very small percentage compared to the Division 1, Division 2s. And I think part of that might be because self-release forms, like you can do a self-release for Division 3, which might be some of them, if like a particular school that you want to go to, you can just have a form and talk to that school for 30 days and figure your stuff out. It's interesting though, because there are obviously Division 3 ones, but it's funny from a Division 3 perspective, and College Soccer Truth of the World would love to hear this, but it's most people aren't looking to transfer down, which is funny because I wouldn't say all, but and I wouldn't even say a majority, but a percentage of players in there weren't playing at their current schools, which are like Division 2s, Division 1s. And so it's like there's great opportunity at Division 3, but it's funny, you'll see them go to like another Division 2 or Division 1 program, and you want to think, like, if you're those coaches, like, why are you taking this player who didn't play at a program that's worse than you and now is playing for you? So it's I know it's a very interesting thing. I think I go back and forth about because I also try to see it from a player's perspective, and I go back and forth about whether how much I love or hate the transfer portal, maybe depending on the day. Fortunately, I think if you have a good team with good culture and stuff like that, you're not going to deal with it a whole lot. Like, I think if there's obviously, you see certain schools in there every single year with like 7 kids on there, and you're like, okay, well that's the same thing that happened last year. And then you see other schools that you don't hear anything about. I would say the only thing that I find weird at going like back to like the volleyball thing for perspective, and this is when the first time this has happened across sports, but it was like the other day, just came out that one of Texas's players who had to sit out this year, but one of Nebraska's players who had to sit out this year because of I think it was a family thing. and she's now transferring to Texas. And in
Yeah,
my head, I'm like,
volleyball, right? Volleyball?
yeah, volleyball. Her
Yeah, I
name's like
saw
Whitney
that. I saw
something.
that yesterday. Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that.
and so like she was like an all-region, all-conference player for Nebraska. Has had to sit out this year, and then is transferring to Texas. And I'm like, I guess like I don't love that perspective. I get it from the kids' perspective because like, yeah, you're gonna go fight for a national title, but Nebraska's like probably gonna fight for national titles too. But I always find it weird when like kids are starting to ditch programs to go try to win a national title. And I've always been of the perspective like try to make your program a national title contender and stuff like that. But it's hard because like you don't want to like if a kid wants to go transfer and win a national title, like I mean that's obviously something that they like are fully entitled to believe that that's something that they should do. So it's interesting. I have mixed. I feel like I go back and forth on transfer portal maybe every week.
Yeah, I was yesterday. I saw the Rich Eisen show. Right, they had Bruce Feldman, right, College Football Insider guy. He was talking about with it yesterday being National Signing Day for football, right, the early signing day period for college football, and he's on there and he's talking about how, in large part, the portal has now trumped any signing day, right? In terms of priority and importance and glitz and glamour. So it's interesting. I think we're at I mean, we've seen so much change in college athletics going back to 2017, right? From the implementation of the portal, right? Then, of course, the pandemic, and then boom, a year later, NIL, and now what you're seeing. So it's interesting because the portal regulation is coming, guardrails, as they say. When and what that will look like, that's going to be the interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's free agency in college sports.
Oh, sorry. You go, Shaun.
No, I mean, it's free agency in college sports. I mean, think about pro sports right now. Oh, I want to go play for a winner. I'm so good. I want to go play for a winner, and the NBA has kind of really, bumped that up. But I think that's what you're seeing now is how many kids, when they sit there transferring, oh, why are you going to this school? I want to play for a contender.
Yeah. And then lost in all of that too is, I think, the NJCAA, the junior college, because it's still, I think, in many ways, the right opportunity for a student athlete to get to the ultimate destination that they want to get to. So I think that gets lost a lot. So, all right, final question for you guys. This one, so kind of wanted to get your thoughts on going back to between last Friday's big bomb, MLS bomb on the US Open Cup. And then, of course, this morning, right, we got a big surprise on the European Super League, right, being passing legislation. All right, the court determining there that it wasn't justified. UEFA can't establish Champions League. They can't have a monopoly. What are your initial thoughts? Right, obviously, so much more still has to happen, but what are your initial thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll tackle the MLS one first. It's without trying to get Shaun and I in too much trouble. It's not that Don Garber's like watching.
When has that ever stopped you? Or
our sources did mention, I don't know if you saw this, was that potentially Shaun Soderling could be up to replace Don Garber as MLS commissioner. I don't know if you saw that. We had sources.
Yeah, remind me. I'm gonna have to ask about that source while ago in a few.
I mean, we'd be better off for it. But yeah, it just I don't know if anyone saw it. Like for better, like people have different opinions on this guy as well. But we, as our show, we love him. Eric Winalda came out with like an interview the other day talking about it, and it was I thought he said it better and more eloquently than I could, and just essentially talked about how the MLS is not like, it's not there for like the development of the league. It's there to protect the teams within the league. And I think when you have a decision like this, it just makes sense to all the other decisions that they tend to make, it being a closed league, not having promotion relegation. And to be fair, I think there's been some teams that have probably scared a lot of the MLS teams over the last few years and made some good runs that were non-MLS teams. And maybe it's a little bit of protection of your self-interest, knowing that like maybe soon there you might not be have the elite teams every single year. And I don't know. I think there was a lot of things that probably went into that decision, but I'm sure the number one decision was just money. But it's also like I saw another perspective on this, I think today, which was also interesting because in Europe, obviously, they have cups in the middle of the season, things like that as well. And teams have obviously rotate squads. Like you can't play the same squad every week. And so maybe there is, in defense of the MLS a little bit, like some element of that where it's like, oh, we're just going to send our youth teams to that one because we need to, like, the league is the most important thing for us. And so I can see a little bit of that, but just the way it came, it wasn't a good look.
Yeah, I think the irony there with the MLS is what's restricting them. So the thing that's been coming up, right, in their report has been fixture congestion, right? Match congestion, right? But they're the ones that went ahead and they added Leagues Cup, right? And the irony here is that it seems like it's their own roster restrictions, their own roster regulations within the league, right? That's limiting them. That's what's really limiting them, I think, from being able to do exactly what you're talking about. That's the irony, I guess. Shaun?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Nick. It's really obviously on what you just said. I think the MLS is their own worst enemy, with their own regulations and restrictions and things like that. When I first heard of it and saw that they were promoting for the MLS Next teams to be playing in the Open Cup and whatnot, and I did think the same thing as Nick. As well, I mean, we all watch the Carabao Cup, and it's especially those opening rounds. Half the team on Liverpool, Nick's never heard of. Half the team on Chelsea, I've never heard of. Because it's all academy kids, and the idea is that just get the team as far as you can. So we got to throw in the senior team, and then once we get to that like knockout stage, then we're going to play our heavy hitters because we're trying to win the trophy, which I think is kind of disservice to those younger players who don't get much time. It's like they got you there, let them finish it out. But at the end of the day, I applauded U.S. Soccer with their coming out and denying that request. And you mentioned about how kind of shows the MLS's backside a little bit. The fact that they made the announcement before it even got rejected or accepted by U.S. Soccer.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like sometimes MLS feels like they are the USSF. And this was like the first time that it felt like the USSF told them like, no, you're not the end all be all in American soccer.
Right. And I think for so long it was hard to tell who was who, right? Because of their connection with SUM, right? SUM marketing. And now that there's no longer a link there, I think, exactly. I think those actions reflect that for sure. I think it's going to be interesting because now the ball's back in MLS's court, right? How do they next respond? That'll be the interesting one. But I think all that said is I think part of the good that's going to come out of this is U.S. Soccer's further investment is because they do need to invest. You talked about the marketing earlier, Shaun, right? In terms of the College Cup, they need to same concept, apply much more marketing and money into the U.S. Open Cup because it's needed for sure. It's needed for sure. So I think that'll be one of the positives. So now European Super League, right?
Oh.
So Champions League and Super League. Nick, take us away.
Yeah, no, I hate it. I don't know who would like it. It's such a dumb idea. Like I get it, but we already like that doesn't mean that things don't need to change throughout the years. As we grow as humans, there's obviously different needs and stuff, but it makes zero sense to take all of those, just the logistics of the travel and everything. I think it would just be just the dumbest decision of all time. And I enjoy watching the Premier League. Like we all do. I enjoy it's fun to go into every game and feel like you would just ruin those teams at the lower end that are constantly fighting promotion relegation. You would ruin you would destroy teams. They would not be able to self-sustain, I don't think, without the TV rights that you would get with the Premier League and things like that. And so I just feel like you would destroy so many lives by doing this. And so many professionals, so many people's families, it seems like just such an asinine idea for people that are just already at the top, who already have so much money, that are craving just a little bit more money. It's how big of a yacht do you have to make where too much, you have too much money, it's crazy to me.
The thing going on Nick's thing about money is, I saw a post today. I forget who the writer was. I'd love to give him credit, but I can't remember. Basically, the two teams that have said yes to this thing, Madrid and Barcelona, from what it's being reported that the teams who participate in this are going to get, Barcelona would become debt-free. And Lord knows they need all the money that they can get. So at the end of the day, I think this is just all a little little infinity loop between Real and Barca and somebody else that Aaron West made a very good comment today on Golazo Network. I was telling Hector before Nick got on, like I actually did my research today. I was watching people talking about this. So I can't take credit for all this, but Aaron West made a very, very good point. He said, the thing I love about the Clasico is I see it once or twice, if that. He goes, I don't want to see the El Clasico every 3 weeks. I don't want to see it every 4 weeks. I don't want to see it once a month.
Yeah.
And he's like, and it's kind of gotten watered down because lately we have seen it more than once or twice in a year. Some of the big rivalry games, we look forward to it 1 time a year, 2 times a year. Well, you're going to water it down. It's not going to be as special as it used to be. And so, that's where I don't understand where the league concept. I feel like it's the live golf of soccer is what it is. And I'm not a live golf fan whatsoever. And I don't understand how taking what makes the sport special, like Nick talked about, like taking away the opportunity to see Chelsea or Liverpool, just hypothetically speaking, okay, so like don't freak out when I say this, but like seeing those teams hypothetically lose to like a Brentford or a relegation zone team, don't take that away from those teams that are on the up, or take that away from like the Open Cup, like Las Vegas Lights when Aldo was coaching them, and they just ran through all those MLS teams. Don't take that away from the people who are putting their money into it. Not just you organize and say, okay, hey, we're going to get all this together. Now we're going to make all this money. No, we're the ones who are still paying for it. And don't take stuff like that away from us.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. Going back to the Open Cup, you mentioned the Open Cup. It is so true just because. So last year I got to see, my hometown team here, club that I support, season ticket member, San Antonio FC, right? USL Championship squad.
We just got a big pickup right before we got on here.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Huge. Juan Agudelo, love him.
We got to see him last year here in San Antonio, Toyota Field, which is one of the best venues under 10,000 to watch a game, right? Extremely intimate. You're right on top of the action. And they played Austin FC, right? I think it was it third round? I think it was maybe. And they played Austin FC in the Open Cup, and talk about an unbelievable game. Austin FC, I think, probably had about 60-70% of their starting squad on there, right? And for that match, and it was a great match. So to be able to experience that, to be able to be there, and it was sellout crowd, and it was loud. And then of course there's, if you know your history in terms of MLS and San Antonio FC and Anthony Precourt and what happened with the Crew and how they ended up in Austin, there's a lot of bad feelings between the owner of Austin FC and San Antonio FC. So yeah, great, but that's a story that was already kind of built in before they even played, right? But if you don't have the Open Cup, you never see that. So I know the big thing that I saw that was different this time around, right, with the proposal now for the initial proposal for, or not, I shouldn't say the new proposal compared to the initial proposal for the European Super League, is that now it seems like it is truly 100%, I guess, promoted in versus before, where like so many teams would stay in. And then the one that got my attention was they're putting it out there saying that it would be 100% TV. TV would be 100% free. No, you would not have to pay for any kind of subscription or anything like that. So that one,
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, that one was a little interesting. So I'm just like,
I mean, unless they do like, I'm a massive fan right now of the Zone Women's Football Channel, because you get all the Champions League games for free as long as you got YouTube, and you don't have to have an account to watch it. You just type in the Zone Women's Football and you can watch the game. So unless it's something like that, and I don't even know like what the Zone's getting revenue wise from doing that on YouTube. I'd be interested to see those numbers, but how are you going to put on Barcelona and Real Madrid for free? How are you going to put on, Liverpool and whoever else for free, or whatever? The money's got to come from somewhere. Right. You can't put those shows on for free.
I know. When they put that out there, I was like, how are they? See how they pull this one off. So, all right. So good stuff, gentlemen. Thank you. So real quick, as we start to transition over to our counterattack segment, let me tell you about our good friends at Gipper. So Gipper's the way schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 3,000 coaches and ADs and use Gipper to create high-quality visual branded graphics for your program. The best part, anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant design experience, you're what they call the power user. This is specifically designed for you, as well as you can expand on it with multiple capabilities as well. And just for being a listener of the 50/50 podcast, you can receive 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050. And our other good friends are proud partners at Global Scarves. Global Scarves is the top provider of custom knitted scarves, beanies, and other fan merchandise in the U.S. All merch is fully custom with free design services and free shipping. Again, free shipping on all orders. You can contact them at info@globalscarves.com to get any free designs or quotes built out for your school, club, or personal supporters group even. So simply mention the podcast or use the code #5050pod. And our good friends at Global Scarves, they'll be sure to take care of you. So, all right, gentlemen, moment of truth. So, counterattack segment. So, since you guys are frequent flyers of the 50/50 podcast here, we're going to change it up a little bit, right? So, today, rather than bombard you guys with a ton of questions, so I got 5 for you, but we're going to add a new little wrinkle in there. So, you all, right, will get to fire back some questions my way. So we'll kind of go one for one. I'll start us off with the first one. So each of my questions will be for both of you. And then after that, you guys can ask back. So, all right. First one. Good. Favorite number and why?
14.
We both have the same favorite number.
Yeah. 14. Yeah. We realized when we first did the show, we both wore it in college. Yeah. That was I don't remember how. I think I saw a picture of Nick.
Well, no, you made me. Like it was like a throwback episode. You're like, hey, get a picture of you for college. You did it for a graphic, and like we both realized that we both had giant hair and wore the number 14.
Yeah.
So, what was the story for 14 behind you, Nick? Was there, or did you just get stuck with that one?
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough. Like my college had a 55-person roster, and there weren't obviously 55 uniforms, and so I was fortunate enough to make the first team as a freshman. And I remember getting there and my coach is like, Nick, what number do you want? And I literally verbatim, I said, whatever number won't piss someone off. And he's like, sounds good. No, they graduated someone who wore 14 last year. No one wanted it of the returners. And so he just threw me the number 14 jersey. But it was literally because I told him, I was like, I don't want to piss anyone off.
And Shaun, so is there a story or not really?
Yeah, so my whole family, my grandfather, my uncle, all wore number 14. And as I got older, realizing that that was a number that wasn't popular because I grew up in the Jordan era. Everybody wanted to wear 23, no matter what the sport was. And so I was like, man, 14 is a number that nobody really talks about. There's not really a famous player who wears it at the time. And then I'll never forget, this is really bad to think about, but I remember my senior year of high school, I was in the youth group meeting at church, and they were talking about 7 being the perfect number. And I was like, well, 7 times 2 is 14. So that must mean it's double perfect.
It's like super perfect.
Yeah. What gets more perfect than perfect? Double it up. So 14 was a number that just kind of stuck with me. I got so giddy when I got to college and nobody wore it because I knew that was something I always want to remember was wearing 14 myself. And the cool thing is now I've got a couple of little kids of my own that wear number 14 for their teams, and so it's kind of cool to see that keep going on.
All right.
Quinn just heard me talk about her, so she. Well, Duke wore 14 the other day in basketball, so
you're passing it on, huh? The legacy. I like
Quinn wants me to confirm. You can tell him yourself, but Quinn wants to confirm that was her jersey that she passed on to Duke to wear for basketball. But.
All right. Awesome. Great deal. So, all right, guys, fire away. I'll try not to embarrass myself. So whatever you got, fire away.
Favorite non-caffeinated drink?
Favorite non-caffeinated,
non-alcoholic.
Oh, you went there. I was just saying non-caffeinated.
It might be it might be extremely limited, but it might also be boring. I guess how about just good old-fashioned water?
I'm a big water person.
Yeah. I drink a ton.
To each their own.
Yeah. People see me drinking energy drinks, pretty regularly, but what they often forget or they don't see is I drink about, so these guys right here, so this Yeti, this tumbler, I drink on average probably 3 of these a day, plus the water bottle I have with me in my backpack during training. And I usually finish at least half to 2/3 of that. So probably
during
could
that same cup you have during school, mine's not a Yeti. Mine's just a plain silver one.
I'm bougie. I'm sorry. I'm bougie.
Yeah. And I will fill that up with Sprite like 4 or 5 times a day.
Right.
Can't help myself.
Really? Yeah. You're giving me a hard time over C4 and you're talking about Sprite. Man. All right. All right. Next one. Best thing you've seen on TV or in the theater. Okay. So this is kind of a 2-parter. Okay. So best thing you've seen on TV or in the theater recently, as well as this year.
Oh man, Nick, you watch a lot more TV than I do.
Yeah. So I'll say movie first. There was a new Hunger Games movie me and my wife went to, so that's the only movie I've seen in the theaters in recent times. So Ballad of Songbird Snake was really entertaining. We read the book, so that was good.
I saw that. Yeah.
TV. Oh man, it's like so funny because like it's a TikTok trend, but like one of the like I would say the most recent show I'm watching on Netflix is from like the late it was like from like 2016 2019. It's called Roman Empire. And it's like a docu-series on the Roman Empire, which apparently our players told me it was a TikTok trend that apparently dudes always think about the Roman Empire. And so I like, it's very typical, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
See, like I said, I don't watch a lot of TV or movies. It's basically if my kids watch it, I get to see it. So TV shows, just because it's the holidays, I just started the Santa Clauses.
Oh, dude, those are great movies.
Instead of being a movie, they've done the TV series. So we just started that one. I've got like 3 more to go on the season 1. Movie wise, are also, well, I haven't started it yet. I said I was going to there tonight, and I haven't started because it just came out. I'm a massive Reacher fan, and season 2
I've heard good things about that show.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome, and I cannot wait to start season 2. I'll probably start that.
That season 2 just came out, didn't it? Didn't it just come out?
Yeah, it just came out like 2 nights ago. Yeah. So once we get back home, I'll probably start that up. And then, but movie wise, Hector and I were kind of talking about this earlier. I think it just came out today. Is the Iron Claw movie about the Von Erich wrestling family, and Zac Efron's in it, a couple other big name actors. So anything that's old school wrestling territory days into a really cool video or movie, like I'm definitely gonna watch it.
Yeah. I haven't even seen that yet, but I already know that's probably going to be the best thing I've seen this year. So yeah, so definitely watching that next couple of days. So, all right, what do you got, Shaun?
Oh, I got one.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Movie character, like Christmas movie character that you'd most like to hang out with.
That's a quality question.
Christmas movie character. So. I'd probably say, so ideally, even though this is going to open up a can of worms because we'll have the that's not a Christmas movie debate all day. I'd say Bruce Willis in Die Hard, right? So
Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
It is. That's what I say. That's what I say.
I think you're golden.
Yeah, but that would be my number one. But for those that wanted to argue with me, I'd probably say, what is it? Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, those poor 2 dudes in Home Alone.
Oh yeah.
The Sticky Bandits.
Yeah, the Sticky Bandits probably hanging out with them. I don't know why. So I'd go the villain route. I think I tend to go the villain heel route for oftentimes. So, all right, next one for you guys. Strangest thing in your fridge right now.
Oh man.
I don't think it's gonna be such a cop-out answer. I have nothing in my fridge that my wife didn't put in there. So like and she's like such a logical, normal person. Like our fridge is like we have the most boring function. Like it's like such a boring functional fridge. Like we just have food, a few condiments. Like it's a very functional.
Because the rest of the condiments are in his backpack.
Yes, correct.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going to say the same as Nick. So right now would be a hard time to answer this question because we always know that we travel for the holidays. So we try to like get ours as empty as possible. So probably strangest thing in there right now might be at our athletic department Christmas party. I won a 6-pack of Spotted Cow.
Nice.
That my wife does.
Someone just transferred that down from Wisconsin for you?
Yeah. The new track coach is from there and was up there visiting home like the week before and brought some down. And when it came turn for my turn to pick the present I wanted, that's what I picked. So good for Casey.
Gotcha. Good deal. All right. So next one, what do you guys got?
My question is, I kind of ask this on our show a little bit sometimes, but if you had a boxing match or a wrestling match or like a starting lineup, you got your own personal entrance song. What is that song?
Mm. I don't know, man. I've often thought about this one, right? Like the go-to, like the only one you would pick forever. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like probably I don't know. I'd like to go for the Ultimate Warrior entrance and just coming in 100 miles an
Ooh,
hour, maybe just like that. Like
yeah.
no lyrics, just super high bit, just nonstop. I don't know, maybe something like that.
Okay.
That'd be hard to replicate every day, but hey, maybe. So, all right.
And it could be any song too. It could be like it doesn't have to be like an actual like walkout song. Just like if if Nick's was like Regulators or something. I know for a fact Nick's would be some like old school hip hop song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next one. Lake or ocean?
Ooh, that's actually tougher than I would have thought. My initial gut reaction was to say lake, just because it's like you can do more stuff, but there's something like just sitting on a beach and like staring off into the horizon and just wondering what's out there. I don't know. Makes me feel like what you're there, like you think about like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I would say that one, like I don't know. I'm gonna change my decision. I'm gonna go ocean.
Ocean. All right. Shaun?
I prefer a river over a lake, but ocean is my number one. Oceans are my that's my I don't know the word to use. I really love them. I went to the Pacific is the one that's by California, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to the Pacific Ocean. I got in it for the first time last summer. And it was like one of the coolest things to me. So I'm going to say the ocean. The ocean is where I would rather be at.
Sweet. All right. Good deal. All right. What do you guys got? We got one left after this.
I'll go with if you got to travel anywhere in the world tomorrow, you got a 10-day trip, where would you go and what would you do?
Ooh, probably with my family, either Italy or Portugal. Probably personal reasons we want to go Portugal. I'm studying Portuguese right now, learning the language, and so for many reasons, my wife and I we're very big on Portugal, but Italy also very big on Italy. I lived in Italy for 2.5 years, and I'd like to take my family back to see where I lived while I was there as well. So
That's
love
cool.
that. Just kind of love that part of Europe. Yeah. So all
I
right,
like it.
sweet. Final one. This one's gonna make you guys think. So you have to cut one, bench one, and invest in one. All right. So
Cut, bench, invest.
Maradona, Pele, and Messi. All right. You have to cut one, bench one, invest in one. Go.
Okay. Cut one. Maradona, Messi, and Pele.
I know who I'm cutting.
I'm cutting Pele.
Wow.
I'm cutting Pele. I'm starting Messi and investing in Maradona and getting him some really good people to keep him away from drugs at all time. Like, have you ever seen that? Like, I think it's a Dave Chappelle where he was skit where he was like paid someone to like slap a burger out of his hand. Like it was like some people
I
like
remember.
just like I never understand like fat rich people because like you could pay someone to just be there and slap a burger out of your hand. That's
Yeah,
what I would
I
do with
do remember that.
Maradona.
Also,
Like,
like remember when on Saturday Night Live the first time The Rock hosted and he was Nick Cottrell and he was the like human cigarette nicotine
yeah.
patch where he
Yeah.
would do the same thing for cigarettes. Yeah.
That's what I would do with Maradona.
All right, Shaun. So cut one, bench one, and invest in one.
All right. So we are going to invest in we're going to invest in Pele. I feel like imagine what the impact he had on the world and the game in his time. What if you did that on a grander scale that we have in 2023? Think of all the platforms that we've got that you could really, pump the Pele name out and whatnot. I'm going to bench Maradona because I still think he's one of the greatest of all time. Can never be duplicated, and I am going to cut Messi.
You're crazy.
And well, I've always said in the Ronaldo Messi debate, Ronaldo, I'm not a massive fan of him either, but at least he went to the Prem League and did it. So Messi's, he's been in leagues that he's been very protected. And so, I just want to see what he would be like up against others. But again, this was an opinion question. You guys can't get me with that reaction on Messi. Yeah, because it's my opinion. So
it's a tough one. Yeah, all right, awesome. So that's my 5. You guys got one left. What do you got? Fire away.
What are you wanting the most for Christmas this year?
So cheesy, but cheesy, but true, right? So true. I think just a nice, quiet day with the family, right? Just at home.
I think you're just gonna say nice, quiet day as well, like spoken like a true dad. Just give me one quiet day.
Well, yeah, that too, but just with the family, just kind of,
yeah,
just it sounds so like made up, trying to go search for the yearbook answer, but it's true.
Okay, let me change that question then.
Okay,
best Christmas song.
Best Christmas song. See, I don't know if I have a favorite. I really don't.
There's not one that when it comes on, like you're like, I'm not going to turn it because I actually like this one.
I tend to do that a lot with Christmas songs, Christmas carols, like whatever comes on. I can tell you the one I'm probably truly sick of though is what is it? Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas."
Oh, dude, worse. Yeah, that song kills me.
Yeah, that I can tell you. That how about I go that route, right? That that one I can tell you is like, yeah, that I can. I'll change the station if I hear that one. So, but yeah, no, good questions. I appreciate it. First time I've done that. The format, getting some questions asked back at me. So I appreciate you guys. Nick, brother, I know you got to run. So
yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you again. Appreciate your time.
With the little one.
Yeah, and we'll talk soon. Good luck on the little one, and we'll talk soon.
All right, see you guys.
All right, take care, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. So, Shaun, appreciate you, brother, as well. Thank you for being here. As is the case, as is custom, right? What we do is we like to wrap up by giving our guests the opportunity, right, for in stoppage time, kind of final thoughts, shout outs, any words, anything you want to talk about as it relates to the game. The floor is yours.
Oh man, anything that relates to the game.
Doesn't have to relate to the game. Whatever's on your mind.
Yeah. Just give a shout out to Nick. He's doing big things and excited for baby number 2 with them. Man, there's so many people to shout out. Don Crow, Bianca Kyle, Keel Kyle. I always mess her last name up. Shannon Sitch, Ian Wilson, Cliff Jordan, Mike Melton, Becca Borg, Jim Watts. Just so many people that have a daily impact on what I do and are my support system when I need that little pick me up. But man, and as far as it comes to in the game, all right, yeah, I got something. This has been on my mind for a while, and I've made a couple posts about this. For the love of God, when people are designing uniforms for their teams, make the numbers visible. Make the numbers visible. We don't want to show up to a game where you got neon jerseys with a neon same colored number. I went to a showcase like 3 weeks ago. The team had red jerseys with red numbers with a lighter shade of red outlining the numbers. I've seen a gray jersey with a like silver print number that you couldn't see. My own daughter's team has white kits with lavender numbers, and I was watching their older teams play a couple weeks ago, and like I saw so many coaches pop down and go, we can't read their numbers. And then, just kind of like walked away. So, if somebody wants to make me happy this holiday season, if you are designing your jerseys and the numbers are not visible, not like, hey, this is the rendering of what the drawing looks like. No, you need to actually see it. And if your players' numbers can't be seen, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. Get that
No,
changed.
no, yeah. I used to see quite a bit here in Texas. I still used to see white on white. Always drove me nuts,
Yeah.
which is illegal, at least in the high school game. In according
Mhm.
to NFHS rules, it's illegal. But yet, yeah. So when sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes when officials choose to enforce that and then not enforce that, I guess it's always a tricky one, right? It's always a tricky one.
Yep.
But awesome. Well, Shaun, appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for making this happen. Continuing the holiday edition, right? And wishing you the absolute best in the rest of this year. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a great 2024, great convention, and definitely going to be looking forward to your next move. Who knows? Maybe we have you back here to do a follow-up, right? Follow-up announcement. You never know,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah, yeah.
have some follow-up breaking news. So we'll see. But uh as for me, final thoughts, pretty simple, pretty this time of year, just be thankful, be grateful, look for your blessings, and spread that. You never know in terms of this time of year, someone you can't always see it, but someone's going through a tough time, someone's going through a hard time, and making sure that just making sure that you're kind of checking up on each other, checking up on family, teammates in some cases, right? Making sure somebody's maybe having a particular rough period as well. Make sure you're checking up on them. So I want to wish everybody an absolute Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, be safe, smart decisions, right? And those of you in the Texas high school soccer community, we're right around the corner. The December 28th is the start of live games, start of official games. So yeah, make sure you make those count and make sure you stay healthy and safe to start the official season with your teammates as well. So, and for coaches, same thing. Take advantage of this downtime, quality time with your family, with your loved ones as well, because it's going to be a very busy, very hectic few months starting in a few days. So that's going to do it for our good friends. Are at Soccer Chat, right? So both Shaun Soderling and Nick Rizzo, grateful for them joining us. Thankful for everybody, for our listeners, our supporters. Again, you can find us on Twitter X at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube. Make sure on YouTube, go on there, subscribe, sign up for the notifications. Please subscribe. You can also find us for the audio podcast. You can find us on all major podcast platforms. If you can, go on there, subscribe as well, follow us, and leave us a rating. If you leave us a rating, that just increases us on the algorithm just as well as on YouTube. So for all of our listeners, all our supporters, I should say, for our podcast team, wishing you all happy holidays, Merry Christmas to all of you. Be safe, and we'll see you with our next upcoming episode, which we'll be announcing soon, very soon. Just waiting a confirmation on that. But until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by National Scouting Report. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading